We make countless decisions on a daily basis, and the majority of us like to believe that we're basing those decisions on reason. Even routine decisions, such as what to have for breakfast, are based on rational and logical thinking, right? Personally, I decide every morning to pour myself a bowl of cereal. And if someone asked me why I eat cereal every day, I'd probably say something like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, so I have to eat it. And I like cereal. Rational, right? It turns out the line, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, is actually nothing more than a marketing slogan coined in the 19th century by James Caleb Jackson and John Harvey Kellogg to sell their newly invented breakfast cereal. So while the accuracy of the statement might be dubious, it's a common human tendency to become attached to the initial presentation of an issue. Once we've embraced an idea, it becomes challenging to resist the temptation to selectively gather evidence that aligns with our existing beliefs and dismiss contradictory evidence. So maybe breakfast is not the most important meal of the day, but I'm still going to eat cereal because I like it, right? Well, maybe not. There are studies published as early as the 1950s that suggest self-descriptive attitude statements like "I like cereal" can often be based on observing our own behavior rather than something internal, like the joy derived from a bowl of life. So while I do believe I like cereal, it might be more accurate to say that I've formed a habit of eating it, therefore I like it. And the tendency to tell myself that I like the things I do to avoid internal inconsistency is called cognitive dissonance. The decisions that we make are often based on our subjective reality, including things that we believe and maybe don't even know why. Rather than using objective, rational information to form our judgments and make decisions, our brains often take shortcuts. These shortcuts, like believing the first thing that we hear, or defaulting to behaving in ways that support what we say we already believe, these are all examples of cognitive bias, deviations from logical judgment. And they can often lead us to behave in ways that we might not fully understand or even agree with. So why do we take these shortcuts? Well, we might not know exactly, but this video is going to provide an overview of the current theories surrounding that question. If we can understand when we tend to take these mental shortcuts and why we're so susceptible to them, we can develop methods and tools for staying rational when making decisions. We can better understand irrational decision-making when studying human behavior. And at the very least, we can feel a little more at ease knowing that being human means not being rational all the time. Before we talk about the psychological perspective, we need to talk about another type of shortcut, heuristics. Heuristics have been likened to something like skilled intuition, in that when used in regular or familiar situations, they feel automatic. Some examples are chunking, mental simulation, or the substitution heuristic. With that in mind, the current psychological perspective posits that cognitive biases are a product of the tendency to use the inappropriate heuristic to make decisions when we're lacking experience and in any of the following situations: not having enough time, having too much information, or not having enough information. The idea here is that when making a decision, people without a ton of experience in any of these situations might try to apply a shortcut that would have worked in a different circumstance. The neuroevolutionary perspective on the origin of cognitive bias starts with understanding that our brains have evolved as a neural network, a system of neurons that communicate with each other. Within a neural network, there are mechanisms that control which neurons are active. So for instance, one of those mechanisms is called lateral inhibition. This is when an excited neuron reduces the activity of its neighboring neurons. This helps you focus on somatosensory information like things that you might see, smell, or hear. When processing information to make a decision or form a judgment, we might not benefit in the same sort of inhibition, but we're wired to do it anyway. As a result, the same way our perception of incomplete visual input is sometimes skewed when our brain tries to fill in the gaps, our brains have evolved to work quickly to piece together cognitive information, which has given way to the tendency to take these shortcuts. The evolutionary perspective also suggests that certain cognitive biases could be remnants of adaptive mechanisms that helped early humans navigate their surroundings and make quick decisions. These biases, though not easily explained by inherent neural network characteristics, are believed to have a social orientation. For instance, while it might not be advantageous for us to prefer taking action without a rational justification first, it would have likely been beneficial for our ancestors to quickly flee upon hearing something that sounded like a stampede of woolly mammoths, even if it just turned out to be thunder. In the absence of modern technology like iPhones with weather apps, it was likely wiser for them to just flee at the first sign of danger. So, in general, understanding when we might take these shortcuts is helpful on a personal level as a decision aid and for researchers conducting behavioral studies. Understanding why we're prone to cognitive bias is a great reminder that these shortcuts are likely programmed into us. And even if they don't always serve us well, they're not hurting us most of the time, kind of like when choosing to eat cereal every morning. For more information on cognitive bias, check out the Research Collective blog, linked below. Thanks for watching.